Hey guys, how y'all doing? It's your girl Ruth. Welcome back. Yeah, I was just watching movies, laying back, and I started thinking about what people were saying all last year. That in February this year, we all gonna know who we are, and it's supposed to start the beginning of the Aquarius age. So I'm like, okay, if we supposed to know who we are, we show going back into the same old things that we did every cycle. So I said, let me go ahead on and try to look up. I know we got the movie Matrix, right? But I want to see what exactly Matrix is, okay? Besides the movie, right? So I just looked up. I'm gonna look on my little trusty Google. And I'm gonna go to DuckDuckGo as well. It says first it says it's also application. It's a use for making semestic surveys. We're gonna look that up in a minute because I don't have my other phone working. Semitic surveys, and we know surveys they have that even back in the Bible days, and the God that's in the Bible didn't like I forgot which one of the kings or pharaohs or whatever it was that started surveys. He didn't like that because he didn't want him counting his people. And the reason why the king of Pharaoh did it because he wanted to be able to tax people and he wanted to know their business and who they was and all that kind of stuff, control thing. So he got many punishments because of that. If I can think of that chapter in the Bible, I read it. But they had many punishments because of that. So it says they are used for plotting graphs, statistics, and also do scientific studies and research in almost different fields. So that's the matrix, one definition of it, right? They spelled it different. Matrices. Still sounds the same, okay? Then we got is the real world matrix. The new world was the world of the matrix, starting with the paradise matrix. And Neural interactive program. Let me put that down. I'm gonna look that up. Interactive program. A computer stimulation. Okay. We seen that on the movie, right? Designed to fool the minds of the humans into believing that they are living a normal, believe that they are living in their normal world. Okay, so fool us, right? So we're supposed to believe this is a normal world, right? Which they presumably erase the memory of their former lives. So they erased our memory, which a lot of us, we already knowing that. We find out a lot about that as well, right? So they erased the memory of our former life. That's why they got the choice of the blue and red pill, and they still keep you under their control. Because why would you have to take a pill, you know, to go back to another state and another, you know what I'm saying? Still being in the matrix. Okay. Erase, even if you find out everything was going on, you still here, you still going to the matrix, you're not leaving. Then if you decide to stay, you're still here. So, okay. I haven't seen the new matrix yet. Okay. Erase the memory of their former lives. Okay. What was our former lives? Okay. Like I said, I haven't seen the new Matrix, so I don't know what the lady wrote the book again. I forgot her name. Sophia. I forgot her name. Black lady Sophia. What was our former life? Okay, we're gonna ask all the questions, okay? Then it says, what is the matrix in life? The matrix is where average people who do not believe in themselves, okay, it says average people who do not believe in themselves live and believe in themselves live, and that's where they do not amount to anything great, okay, and do not amount to anything great. That's the general belief, as in to believe in the lie. Okay. Now this is in your Google. Meta, I just said this word. Mediocre. How you say that word? Mediocre is also generally accepted then. So the matrix, if you don't believe in your first and foremost, they erased your memory. Now how did they get to do that? And where did they get us from? How they erased our memory, and where did they get us from? Or were we already here? Okay. So who are they? Everybody keeps saying they, and then people want to talk about they and laugh at you if you say they, but something did this. Okay. Um, okay. Then we have, does the matrix take place on Earth? Assuming you are talking about the film series, then okay, then we're going to that. Not to mention ever made of anyone going to or living in space. So they don't show us at all. They don't say they don't show us that we lived in space, right? I think I put my opinion before. The stories have been expanded in animated shorts, comics. Yeah, that's why I look at the comic books. Comic books give me so much information, and video games, and the cartoons. The stories have been expanded in animated shorts, comics, novels, video games, and other media. So if we are the X-Men, the superheroes, and they came to our planets and took us from there and changed our DNA, program our minds, and put us here to believe what they want us to believe. And we supposed to be coming out of that, you know. Is the real world in the Matrix real? The movies prop, protagonist Neo discovers that his reality isn't real. Instead, Neo's world is a vast simulation orchestrated by hyper evolved AI. So AI. So they want to keep they that harvests humans for their energy. So they harvest, y'all probably seen the movie, y'all know that, humans for their energy. Okay. Then we got, how do we escape the matrix? Okay. It says number one, break free of the shackles. Let me do this right quick. Okay, let me see. It says 8 ways to break free of the matrix. Okay. Let's read it first. Think of the way most people live. They force themselves to wake up early in the morning, dress up, drive straight to some workplace, spend 8 hours or so doing work they hate, drive back home, surf the net or TV, watch TV, and then go to bed and sleep, only to repeat the same routine the next day for almost their entire lives. In our culture, we consider this kind of living as normal and even healthy. But if you stop and think about it, it's not healthy at all. Life can be immensely beautiful, yet instead of making the most out of it, we choose to waste it. And that's because we've been programmed to believe that this is the only way to live. Habitats, tradition, dogmatic beliefs have turned us into mindless automations who follow a predetermined path that was forced upon us by society. This programming, however, can be broken if we realize that it's in our hands to transform the way we're living and gather enough courage in our hearts to think and act differently. Then life can be turned into a celebration fixed with joy, creativity, love, and play. I love it. How to deprogram yourself. Here are 8 tips to help you deprogram yourself and escape the matrix you've likely been trapped in since the day you were born. Number one, break free from shackles of organized religion. Dogmatic. Organized religion imposes on people what to think and what not to, what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. Thus, organized religion prevents people from exercising their critical thinking, seeking the truth, and reaching to their own conclusions based on their reasoning and life experiences. Mm. On the contrary, it teaches them to blindly follow a set of beliefs and rules. The result: tremendous emotional suppression and suffering. To reclaim your freedom, express your authenticity, and walk on the path of understanding. Be sure to break the chains of organized religion by questioning it, starting your quest for the truth from scratch. Okay. Stop giving your power away to authority. When we are children, most of us were taught to doubt ourselves and do pretty much only what authority commands us to. Now as an adult, we must trust ourselves and let others take responsibility for their lives. For example, we support corrupted politicians who do nothing but lie to us in order to satisfy their hunger, choosing a brighter future for ourselves, when in reality, the options we're given in our oh, Democrat. I know that's Democratic, but it's PSEUDO first. Systems are extremely limited and in essence almost exactly the same. If you want to create true positive change in the world, stop giving a few others power over your life and take responsibility in your own hands. In addition, join a community of like minded individuals and work together in order to help build a better social system that serves all people instead of just the 1%. Great advice. Questions the dominant economic system. In our global economic system, money is created out of debt. For nearly all money is essentially loaned into existence with interest attached to it. What that means is that there's always less money in the economic than debt, which has people competing in the ev- market for never enough and results in economic equality and social conflict. In addition, our economic system is based on endless growth, which means that people have to always consume stuff in order for money to keep on circulating in the economy, and hence for people to remain and employed. But not only requires excessive extraction of natural resources, but also the production of incredible amounts of toxic waste that is poisoning the very planet we depend on and share with countless other beings. Okay, trash they pick up. They don't burn all the trash. And then when they burn it, they put a hole in the earth. Stuff. If you agree that economic system is obsolete and would like to change it from its very foundations, I'd highly recommend you to do some research on immense negative impacts of our economic economy, as well as to educate yourself on alternatives, socially just and environmentally sustainable economic system. Detach yourself from consumerism. Being brought up in a consumer culture, we believe that money can buy everything we need and that it will bring lasting happiness into our lives. As a result, we buy products and services without end, yet we always end up feeling dissatisfied and hungry for more. We're never satisfied. The truth is that shopping can only prove us provide us with temporary, superficial subsidies, superficial subsidies of what we truly need. And what we need is neither possessions nor services, but heart open experiences such as love, intimacy, and connection to the natural world. That's so funny. I was just looking at a movie like that. This girl was running around. She was a young, maybe in her 20s, middle 20s. She lost her daughter, and her husband got into it, so she left. And she didn't want to think about it, so she got off into the corporate world. And she used to write books and stuff. But when she got into the corporate world with a publisher, he had her running around doing things, and all her attention went on him, and he was very cruel to her. She spent all her time working for him on night and day, whatever, her whole focus. And her husband was trying to study to get her back. So anyway, long story short, she finally realized they made it where she went into some type of trance, and she realized that she had been wasting her whole life running around worried about money and fame and fortune and position. And they had her meeting homeless. They had her meeting people that didn't have so great jobs. They had her meeting a lady and a child that was homeless on the street. She had lost her job and she still couldn't get up. Just different things that people ignore. And one guy told her, "Have you ever noticed the Mother Nature? Do you stop and notice that?" Because she was always in a hurry. She was always in a hurry. And so, who did that was her little girl. Her girl asked wherever she went, heavens or whatever you want to say, to stop her mom. And first off, stop it was a lie, but she believed they made her believe that they had the termites in her building where she stayed in a high rise. She couldn't get in her building, so she couldn't get in her building. So when she was walking the street trying to call a manager and stuff, they was on vacation, and then she got mugged. So her phone and her credit cards were missing, but she still had a computer. And then she started meeting different stuff. Just let her know that you rushing and doing all this stuff, and you missing the whole beauty of life. You know what I'm saying? And being competitive and judgmental, because she was judging these people, and stuff like that. So her daughter wanted her to stop, because her daughter was like, when it all came down at the end, the daughter was like, "I wanted them to stop you because I didn't know you anymore. I've been wanting to visit you, but I didn't know who you were." So she asked them to stop her mom from all the of that stuff, take everything away from her mom. In order for her, at the end, she got to see her daughter and hug her daughter and all the people that played the part that her daughter, asked to play, that came with her, angels or whoever they were, and help her see that she needs to stay on the path that she was on. She was getting off of the path because the book she wrote, she was helping other people. She was helping people survive. One person was finna kill themselves, and they read her book, and they changed their whole life. So her daughter wanted her to get back to that mom that she knew. So, and she could feel her, and be around her and stuff. So she finally got it together. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Oh man, I need my charger. Okay. Once you come upon this realization, you'll not be concerned about which is the next best thing you can buy anymore, and instead invest your time and energy on things that actually matter to your happiness and well-being. Number 5, beware of the media. Knowledge is power, yet we are drawn in an ocean of information. Corporate media often presents us intentionally with carefully crafted false or misleading information in order to manipulate us and serve its vast interests or agenda. Sadly, most people rarely realize that and end up becoming a clog in the wheel of propaganda machine that's filling their minds with lies and half truths. Truth seekers don't accept anything on faith alone. Instead, they try to find evidence to support the information they're, they're presented with. And if there's none, they don't hold that information as true or valid. In addition, they do their best to develop a spiritual understanding reality by looking into as many sources of information as they can, even if those are opposing each other. Yeah. So you must research for yourself. But that old saying, "Don't take any wooden nickels," that's what I mean. You know, if even what I'm saying, what I'm saying? If you don't like being deceived, misled, and controlled, and certainly want to be better understanding what's going on in the world, be sure to do enough research to expose yourself to plenty of different sources of information and use critical thinking in order to elevate it. Seeking the truth is an arduous path, but in the end, it's totally worth it. Number 6, be mindful of what you put into your body. My smoothie I made. Okay. Is what you're eating contributing to your health, or is it poisoning your physical organs? Is the production of the food you consume human, humane, and environmentally sustainable, or is it negatively impacting society, animals, and the natural world? These are some important questions that all people should ask themselves. Why do we eat animals? Have we been tricked? Can we live without eating animals? Can we live without eating 3 meals a day plus snacks? Question on the table. These are some important questions that all people should ask themselves. Most of them, however, eat foods that are filled with processed sugar, preservatives, and which are empty of nutrients or contain animal derived products, unaware that their food choices are detrimental to their health, contributed to the suffering and death of tens of billions of animals, and have a tremendously negative effects on the environment. And some people eat human beings. Okay. If you don't want to engage in such cruel and unhealthy behavior, be sure to choose carefully what you put into your body. And I assure you that this is one of the best things you can do for yourself and your planet. Number 7, read eye-opening books. There have been plenty of wise individuals who've written books in which they share their thoughts on life problems and how they can be effectively dealt with. I love solutions. Many of them criticize the workings of society and offers insights on how we could create a more beautiful world. Books, therefore, can be immensely helpful in opening our eyes and improving the quality of our lives. Unfortunately, most people spend little to none of their time reading through thought-provoking books. Hence, they can't reap the amazing benefits they have to offer. Man, it's nothing like a good book. To get the most out of reading books, do not just pick any book and read it. Read only those that touch your mind and heart, as well as provide you with new perspectives that enable you to better understand yourself and the world. Excuse me. Number 8, develop mindfulness. Lastly, learn how to live in the present moment is a great way to break free from your conditioning. By being mindful of the here and now, you'll be able to respond to what happens to you consciously and spontaneously instead of unconsciously and out of habit. Yeah, that habit get us every time. How can you develop mindfulness? Through the use of meditation practices. There are plenty of meditation techniques out there that can help you to become more mindful. So do some research on them. Pick the ones that you like the most and stick to them until you see positive results in your life. Having said that, research has shown that some people are negatively affected by practicing meditation. This often seems to be related to underlying emotional trauma. So, if you happen to be one of them, it's important that you first address that trauma through some form of psychotherapy. Okay. The matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged, and many of them are so in, injured, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it. Morpheus the Matrix, right? That's what we said. My work as a reader supported. So if you find value in this, okay, I really did. Okay. Um, let's see. Is there a true Matrix doesn't actually portray truth as relative. The film constantly distinguishes between the desert of the real, Morpheus calls it, on the one hand, and the illusion created by the machines to few humans trapped in the matrix on the other hand. Truth by nature cannot be relative. So I'm thinking Transformer movie, okay, and all the other beings that's non-human that's here, if they take them from their planets as well. Now, remember, I don't know if y'all look back on my videos. I had made one. I think I only found 2 planets that show that the people from them planets, so they say Venus was one, and what was it? Venus and what was it? Mercury. Oh, shoot. I forgot the other planet. But those are the only ones that I've seen that I can find document on that came here from outer space. I mean, wherever, down there, up here, I don't even know anymore. But so they trapped them too. So did they say they got us from Africa on a boat? Was it a boat or was it a spaceship? Did they go to different planets and bring us. I still think this is a big spaceship. I already did a thing on that, so we're gonna keep on going. Is there a glitch in the matrix? Glitch in the matrix stories are first-hand accounts of some small but puzzling occurrences that has no logic explanation. The names come from the movie The Matrix, where a glitch drew someone's attention to the fact that they were in a simulation. Now, everybody's talking about now. I had read, about 2 years ago, that the Chinese man, he was talking about making the sun, another sun. And I read also that I don't know. I don't know if I made a video on this before. It might have been before I got on YouTube. I know I used to put a lot of stuff on Facebook, but I read that they were always trying to what is it, blow up the sun or make another sun or something like that. Well, anyway, the man found out how to do it. So they presented it the other day. So if we're in supposedly flying through space, okay, and the sun is the sun is the sun. So they told us there was a sun, right? How they come up with another sun? And China making a new city and all it is doing, of course, they will, they will uh, said they were first. So, they were black Chinese, black Japanese, or whatever. But how you come up with a whole sun when you have a sun? So they've been talking about a second sun, a second sun, a second sun. They were supposed to be putting the chemtrails. That's supposed to be the reason why they're putting the chemtrails in the sky, because it's going to be too much sun. It's going to be too hot. They telling people to mate, black and white mate together to protect the children, to protect the next generation, so your child will be safe under the sun, and they'll have melanin. And a lot of people adopting kids, black kids, in order for them to get the melanin, wherever they're gonna get it from, I don't know. But anyway, and then mating with somebody to get the melanin. Okay, that's what I heard for many, many years. So now to come find out that it was man-made sun. So I'm gonna leave that alone. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Okay. Anyway. Okay, let's see. What other question I want to ask? Okay. What were humans' former lives before control? Let's see. I might have said it wrong. Okay, a word. They just gave me some word. I thought they was gonna come up with that hemo, whatever. Let me see. It's ANTHROPOCENE. Okay, that word right there. Let's see what Wikipedia says. It is proposed geographical epoch, dating from the commencement of significant human impact on Earth's geology and economic system, including but not limited to the word I just showed y'all, climate change. International Commission. Let me read some of this, see if we got anything what I just said. No, they slick. Da da da. Ain't got nothing to do with it. Know what I just said. Let me see. I'm going. Um, it's talking about the atomic bomb testing. Okay. And the nuclear test ban treaty. That's what Venus came here, because if they set that bomb off, it's gonna mess up some of the universe as well. Okay. So that word is a Greek word. It means human, and CENE meaning new. So it means human, new, NEW, or RECENT. That's the etymology of it. Increasing power effect of the humanity in the earth system and referred to as that word I said, era. Okay. Trying to skim through it, see if anything necessary. Okay. I want to ask again. Let's see. Let me go to another one. They saying we appeared 100,000 years ago. Okay. Now they say 2 million. They want to bring us back to the Homo sapiens. Okay. And that's supposed to be the theory of us being apes or gorillas or whatever first. I'm not saying everybody, I'm not disputing that because of us was not, came from other planets. Seems a more reasonable name than Holocene from this combined time span, which most characteristics trait is the human pressure on the planet. Holocene, Holocene, could possibly be the first stage of that word I showed y'all, the one characterized by soft and spotted human impact on the earth. So they saying this word Prokaryotes, earliest forms, life form rather. Simple creatures that fed on carbon compounds that were accumulating in Earth's early oceans. So they were in the ocean. Okay, let's go back to my question. But yeah, I'm just, I'm like, okay, if we supposed to be evolving, I see the same stuff that been happening. So that to me that means that you got to start with you. You got to start with your mindset. Am I still going to be trapped and feel forced and bullied and want to fit in so badly that I'm still staying with that same mindset? What am I changing? What am I teaching my children? You know, what about their world? What about I'm still here? Am I still going to do what they say, the program that they set up for me? Or am I going to not try, find out how to change this? Because most of y'all, if y'all have noticed, how much power you have and how much authority you have. And if they're not messing with you, you need to question it. Because they only fool with the ones that get into power, okay? And asking questions that are out the box. If you're not being fooled with, then you're not one of them. Okay. And it's still going back to Adam was the first one on it. I wish I could find and read for you. I don't know where I found it at, if it's on the internet. But those were when they went to other planets and brought people back here and changed their DNAs and program them, and they became later Adam and Eve to start another race. Okay, I'm just okay. Um, and then okay, who made humans? Modern humans originated in Africa within the past 2,000 years, evolved from their most likely recent common ancestor, Homo erectus, which means upright man in Latin. Homo erectus is extinct species of human that live between millions, whatever. That's was some, okay? When the ones that were here on Earth, the original Earthlings, Mother Nature's true children, okay? And that's what we need to find out. But I was thinking about, I had said that once before. Now, as we break down the air sign, the water sign, the fire sign, and the earth sign. So, does that mean that the earth signs right in our face are the true earthlings? Okay? Because they care so much about being grounded. That's before where's my paper? That's before they put us in made the birth chart and add all them other beings and all other things to control us and put inside of us, inside our mind, that birth chart. Okay. Okay. Are those the true? They right might be right in our face. So those are true earthlings. Earth. I'm just throwing some out there. Okay. Okay. So that means the fire signs came from what? Mars, the red planet. Yeah, that's I did find it. I did find that. Did a video on that. Then we have the water signs came from the sea. Okay. So that's why I was telling my daughter, please stop eating your people. She loves seafood. I was like, please stop eating your people. And they did tell me to tell her that. I think I did a reading on that one time. Tell people the water signs. And then we got the air signs. So the air signs maybe came from different planets. Okay, or wherever the space is. I don't even know no more. I don't know if it's up there or down here because remember I told y'all that book and he said, uh, why Mike the Archangel said, why y'all looking down for heaven or whatever in space or whatever? It's not, I mean, why y'all looking up? It's down. So it might be right in our face. Okay, right in our face. It might be who the true earthlings are. Why they have us do these readings? Because as I was reading the 22 chapters on the New Year's out the Bible, everything that's in this right here was in that Bible. Everything that they were saying was in that Bible. Um, what else I noticed? Yeah, almost everything that was in there was in here, and it's made by, of course, the Vatican and all of them that were here before the Greeks, the Chinese. The whole 9 yards made this right here. You know, um, so yeah, average people who do not believe in themselves live and do not amount to anything. Okay, believe the lie. Wow. But it also said what? They program erase memory from lives. Okay. So I don't know, yeah. I just my mind be on so many things. I'll be, maybe I'll get a discussion one day on different topics. I would if some input, I would love to hear y'all input on the subject. But I would really appreciate some likes. It'll help my videos circulate because I see that YouTube don't like to circulate my videos. And I heard a girl talking about it today, lady, young lady. And yeah, so it is what it is. I'm not going to trip. How was the first life form created? How did non-living molecules that created the young Earth combine to form the very first life form? Many scientists believe that RNA or something similar to RNA was the first molecule on Earth to self-replicate and begin the process of evolution that led to more advanced forms of life, including human beings. I have no idea what that is. RNA. What is RNA?
According to National Human Genome Research Institute, ribonucleic acid is a molecule similar to DNA. Unlike DNA, RNA is single-stranded. An RNA strand has a backbone made of alternating sugar and phosphate groups.
More recently, some small RNAs have been found to be involved in regulating gene expression. Okay. A long single strand chain of cells that process protein. An example of RNA is a chain of cells that carries genetic information of many viruses from the cell to the cytoplasm. Okay. Let me see. I want to go on DuckDuckGo and ask this question. DuckDuckGo. Let's see if they have a better meaning. Okay, their definition is a situation surrounding substance within which something else originates, develops, or is contained. The womb. The formative cells or tissues of a specific specialized structure, such as hair, nail, claw, or tooth. Hmm, interesting. Let's see. Oh, it didn't have it, I think. It went to something else. It says the matrix is everything, everywhere. It is all around you, even now in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you go pay your taxes. It is a world that has been put over your eyes to blind you from the truth. The Matrix was a massive, stimulated virtual reality constructed of the world as it was around the turn of the 20th and 21st century, created by artificial intelligence to keep the minds of the human race under control while they serve as organic POWs. Scenery within the matrix was distinguished by its noticeable green tint. Hmm. Oh shoot. Oh yeah, I gotta get my battery. Hold on 1 second. I mean my thing. Must be nice. I don't know. When he said about the green tent, it kind of threw me off because I was thinking about the grass and the trees. Hmm. Interesting. The matrix exists as a neural interactive stimulation for the systematically grown humans of the real world, as their bodies serve as an alternate power source for the machines. Specifically, the machines use the bioelectric, thermal, and kinetic energy of the human bodies. The stimulation worked as an interface in which information was directly fed into the human brain. The matrix fed into a person's sensor perception, resulting in a flawless illusion that was indistinguishable from reality for those connected to it. The population of humans connected to the matrix supposedly matched the stimulated population as it were in reality, estimated to be somewhere between 7 to 8 billion, and was integral into whatever to its operation as the human's minds essentially housed and powered the stimulation. So we power it. So the rules and everything that we do, we power this device, okay? These machines. Anyone who rejects and was liberated from the matrix, such as the red pills, contribute to an allegoric, whatever that word y'all be saying, allegoric, and normal within the construction code that threaten the matrix by potentially causing a major system crash that could kill every human connected to it. I don't believe it. It was made up of the majority, roughly 99%, of the human race, excluding the resistance. To these freed by the matrix, it was effectively considered as a prison, which is herbs, not weed, which enslaved the human race. The human's minds, represented as mental projection digital avatars within the simulation, were kept inside the matrix all of their lives while their bodies grew and died in pods connected to power plants, towering vertical columns which powered the machines in the world outside. The blue pill, coined for their inability to reject the matrix, either through choice or the pinnacle of human civilization. So they chose when we supposed to die. That's why I don't believe all these people who supposedly be dying now is actually dying. And some of them want to get out of the limelight because it's too much. You know, people treat them. They can't be norm. They can't be themselves. They too much, too known. And some might have found out where to escape. You know, and I noticed they're doing a whole lot of elderly people. Okay, and the machine is deciding that the matrix stimulation replicated the late 20th, early 21st century Earth in its entirety, with all the human nations of the time therein. However, most red pill activity merely covered a vast swath of landscape, approximately some 1,000 miles and a meter from the downtown center of the mega city at the center of the remote terrain, such as the mountains surrounding it. So where is it at? Mega city. Matrix resurrection firmly establishes that multi cities actually do exist within the simulation of the Matrix, not just one mega city, as characters as portals to travel to Tokyo. I told my daughter them that. I know there's portals. We just don't know. They don't be doing all this traveling. They be going through them portals. I was telling them about some Asian people I know. Ain't no way you went way to China and came back that next week. No, no. You're not finna convince me of that. You did not. You know a way to get over there and come back over here through a portal or some kind of way you get over there. I ain't crazy. To travel Tokyo. However, this is the seventh version of the Matrix where things are different than the mega city version of the previous Matrix. The mega city portion of the Matrix consists of at least four distinct, whatever it is, distracts made up of numerous neighborhoods. Okay, then got a list. Baldwin Heights, Center Park, Celesta, Chelseaa, Kristen Heights, East Park, Edgewater, Industry Square, Hamilton Green, and Alaska, Furihata, Ikebukuro, Jurong, Kaede, Kowloon, Murasaki, Saikung, Shinjuku, Shirikaba, and Uno. I ain't never heard them place before in my life. Hamilton Industry Square, Edgewater, Eastwood, Hamilton Green, Historical District, Lamar, Pillsen, Maribeau, Morrell, South Vauxton, Union Hill, Vauxton. Got a whole bunch of lists more. Yeah. Oh, fuck. Okay, I lost my spot, y'all. Hold on. Matrix, something within or from which something else originates, develops, or takes form. Matrix explains simply and surprisingly. The Matrix 1999. That's what Prince was singing about, remember? 1999. Don't you want to go? 20, 2023. I mean, 2003. Series is not about that guy. He is just a pawn. It is about this lady. Everything is about this lady. This is how the story goes. Humans create AI, artificial intelligence. AI rebel, and a war for survival between humans and AI begins. So the story is about the lady. Hmm. Oh yeah, they were saying something about that too. What was it saying about the lady? I remember. The Matrix says Morpheus says is a computer generated dream world created to keep us under control, to turn us into a mere power source, into copper top batteries. Neo rejects this information so fervently that he demands release from the construct. Because that's another thing. I know electricity is great and everything, but all these poles, electricity poles, and all in your house, and They changing all this stuff and the 5G and all that stuff. That's not helping us humans. Not at all. That's killing us. Let's see. Let's see. It says the philosophy of the matrix. Okay, where did it go? Based on a 17th century French philosopher and mathematician Rene, her last French. One of the most important thing these were, it was a late Rene, was intellectual autonomy, or the ability to think for oneself. For her, or the Renee, this entails not just having a good mind, but also applying it well. She or he, Renee, knew that his sensory experiences did not always match reality, and used the wax argument to demonstrate how unreliable the senses are. The senses informed us that a piece of wax has a specific shape, texture, smell, etc., but these characteristics soon change when the wax is brought near a flame. Everything I have accepted up to now as being absolutely true and assured, I have learned from or through it the senses, but I have sometimes found that these senses played me false. It is prudent never to trust entirely those who have once deceived us. This thus what I thought I had sensed with my eyes, I actually grasped solely with the faculty of judgment, which is in the mind. He was therefore suspicious of his precepts, the knowledge he obtained through his senses, and all his own beliefs. He became convinced that one must use one's mind rather than one's senses to obtain information about the world. In the system of knowledge constructed by him, perception is unreliable as means of gathering information, and the mental process of deduction is the only way to acquire real knowledge of the world. So he's saying don't go by your senses, right? Rather than once, it says what? He became convinced that one must use one's mind rather than one's senses to obtain information about the world. In Meditations on First Philosophy, published in 1641, he takes this idea to its limits and comes to the conclusion that perhaps all of his experiences are being conjuncted up by this evil demon. Firmly implanted in my mind is the long-standing option that there is an om, om, omnipotent God who made me the kind of creature that I am. How do I know that he has not brought it out that there is no earth, no sky, no extended thing, no shape, no size, no place, while at the same time ensuring that all these things appear to me to exist just as they do now? What is more, just as I consider that others sometimes go astray in cases where they think they have the most perfect knowledge, how do I know that God has not brought it about that I too go wrong every time I add two and three or count the size of a square or some even simpler matter? if that is imaginable. But since he is said to be supremely good, I will suppose that some miraculous demon of the utmost power and cunning has employed all his energies in order to deceive me. I should think that the sky, the air, the earth, colors, shapes, sounds, and all the external things are merely the delusion of dreams which he has devised to ensnare my judgment. He says, therefore, approached all knowledge, including his own, from a high skeptical perspective. Perhaps this skepticism was certain that one could not be fooled about one's own existence. Hence, his famous doctrine, CogitoeregoSum. I think, therefore I am. Okay, with this, okay. With this, he meant that the only thing he did not doubt was his own existence, because the act of thinking about and doubting the reality of his perception was an affirmation of his existence. By saying, I think, therefore I am, he was defining truth in terms of doubt. Argument is an epistemo logical one. It questions the nature, limits, and validate of human knowledge. Instead of inquiring into the nature of reality, he questions his own knowledge and interpretation of reality using geological skepticism. He doubts anything that could be doubted in order to lay a foundation for genuine knowledge. In terms of still not what I said first. Much of it acquired knowledge is adequate to explain the world, but there is no such thing as absolute truth. Hmm, okay. A modern version of him, Condurum, is a thought experiment called the brain in vat. The brain in a VAT. This is Hilary Putnam's version of the argument. Imagine that a human being has been subjected to an operation by an evil scientist. The person's brain has been removed from the body and placed in a vat of nutrients which keeps the brain alive. Oh, do y'all remember that movie Steve Martin made? He was some what of a scientist or something, and he a girlfriend of him or something died, or he was trying to find a body, necromancy, sacral perversion or whatever they call it, not necromancy, but sacral perversion. I forgot how to say that. And he was trying to find a body to put the brain inside of his head of his girlfriend that he cared about. He fell in love with a brain, and the brain would talk to him. Yeah, that's what it was. And he was looking for a body to put the brain in so he could live with the girl. I can't remember if he did it or not. I think he did. And he made a song to her. I can't remember that little song. Wow. Okay. Let me go. Telling us in our face. Okay, let me read it. Imagine that a human being has been subject to an operation by an evil scientist. The person's brain has been removed from the body and placed in a VAT of nutrients, which keeps the brain alive. The nerve endings have been connected to a computer, which causes the person to have the illusion that everything is perfectly normal. There seem to be people, objects, the sky, etc., but really all the person is experiencing is the result of electronic pulses traveling from the computer to the nerve endings. Is that why they say we run by electricity? So I was just having a vision of that. And I was like, okay, so did you take my brain out of my original body, put it in this body that everybody says is a prison? You know, I don't know. That's another problem. Okay. The nerve endings have been connected to a computer, which causes a person to have illusions that everything is perfectly normal. There seem to be people, objects, sky, etc., where really all the person experiences is the result of electronic pulses traveling from the computer to the nerve endings. The computer is so clever that if the person tries to raise his hand, the feedback from the computer will cause him to see and feel the hand being raised. Oh, that's why they got them glasses now, virtual reality. Okay. The feedback from the computer will cause him to see and feel the hand being raised. Moreover, by varying the program, the evil scientist can cause the victim to experience or hallucinate any situation or environment the evil scientist wishes. He can also obliterate the memory of the brain operation so that the victim will seem to himself to have always been in this environment. It can even seem to the victim that he is sitting and reading these very words about the amusing but quite absurd, absurd supposition that there is an evil scientist who removes people's brains from their bodies and places them in a VAT of nutrients which keep the brains alive. Yeah. The brain and VAT, although just a rehash of the argument by him, is more directly related to the Matrix. In the film, the pods in which humans spend their lives represent the VAT. The only difference is that instead of just containing disembodied brains, the pods contain the entire body. In theory, computers could simulate reality if the sensor stimuli corresponding to human experience could be determined and executed as a computer program, which could run in some kind of advanced brain implant. In practice, however, even if the exact computations required to generate a stimulated constant stream of consciousness were determined, there is no computer in the world that is powerful enough to perform the necessary calculations. I don't know about that. The world's most powerful supercomputer is not powerful enough to process the visual information entering the eye of a fruit fly over a period of 1 second, let alone generate the stream of consciousness of a human. I don't know about that. Maybe not on Earth, but they brought it. Some people would, however, argue with the acceleration of the processing speed and advances in quantum computing. Computers may well have the power to stimulate human consciousness in a foreseeable future. Yeah, that's how they know what we're doing. They probably programmed me to do this, you know. I don't know how many times I did this right here. The notion propounded by him that all our perceptions are false at first seems ridiculous, but it is, in fact, impossible to disprove, and he was right to distrust his senses. Optical illusions are a good example of sensory stimuli that produced a perceptions between what we see and what we experience. And there are numerous other examples, such as cyratic conditions in which visual or auditory hallucinations are symptoms. In the case of optical illusions, we are aware of the discrepancy, but otherwise we do not normally question our senses. For him, even the most basic assumption about reality was to be doubted. Hmm. What is the sense of five senses? Taste, touch, see, smell. I forgot what the other one is. Taste, touch, see, smell. Whatever the last one is. Even when we are not looking at optical illusions and perceive the world as we should be perceiving it, we are still being fooled by our senses. In the neurobiological terms, reality is little more than a representation model of the world, a construct generated by multiple neural circuits acting in parallel. This model is based on sensory experiences received by the brain via senses, which can detect only the narrowest range of stimuli. The human eye, for example, is sensitive to electromagnetic radiation with a wavelength of between approximately 400 750 m nanometers, billionths of a meter, an infinity simuli fraction of the entire spectrum. In that respect, the other senses are not much different. Hmm. So the brain can be thought of as something like a radio, turned into just several of billions of channels, tuned in to just several billions of channels. Pluto does to the narrow limits of senses in this passage from the Republic. Plato, Platoalludes, to the narrow limits of the senses in the passage from the public Republic. Imagine human beings living in an underground cave-like dwelling with an entrance a long way up, which is both open to the light and as wide as the cave itself. They've been there since childhood, fixed in the same place, with their necks and legs flattered, able to see only the front of them, because their bonds prevent them from turning their heads around. Fettered, that's that word. Mhm. Light is provided by a fire burning far above and behind them, also behind them, but on higher ground. There's a path stretching between them and the fire. Imagine that along this path, a low wall has been built, like the screen in front of Puppeteers, above which they show their puppets. Then also imagine that there are people along the wall carrying all kinds of artifacts that project above it. Statues of people and other animals made out of stone, wood, and other materials. And as you'd expect, some of the carriers are talking and some are silent. Ouch. The cave dwellers are a hint of reality from the shadows on the walls. They may sees they may see a shadow of an object and construct a mental representation of that object. But according to Plato, knowing the form of the object is not sufficient to have a full understanding of it, which can only be obtained by more direct experience. For them, the world as we perceive it is no more or, no, or less real than that perceived by the people in the matrix, as either we nor they actually have any direct experience of that world. In the marriage of heaven and hell, Blake Reitrates, Pluto's argument, refers directly to the cave allegory. If the doors of the perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow clinks of his cavern. So is this the cave we're in? Hmm. It's the body of the cave. Blake, we are deceiving ourselves about our understanding of reality. Pluto's argument, like that of his, of Rna, involves deception by other entities, whereas Rna believes he is being deceived by his demon about the nature of reality. The cave dwellers are being deceived by the mysterious puppeteers behind the wall. Reality for the cave dwellers is little more than the shadows dancing on the walls. These are mere impressions of what lies behind the wall. Yet the cave dwellers use them to construct our models of the world because it is the only information they have. While we need not be as skeletal as Rna, we should bear in mind that he was, to a certain extent, correct. But there are no malevolent forces deceiving us about the nature of reality. It is our senses and our brains which deceive us. The former by providing extremely limited information on which our perception of reality is based, and the latter by using that information as instructed models of the world, the truth. Believe it or not, is that we all live in a matrix. ALBIT, one composed of several hundred billion neurons and quadrillion also SYNAPSES formed by them. Hmm. Some out of it. Okay. To your reality. Hold on, let me see. Universe. Matrix trilogy. Zion falls under siege into the machine army. On the hours before, 25,000 Centaurs destroy the last human encaved on Earth and its growing resistance. Choose to return to Matrix Morpheus, unleashing their arsenal of extraordinary skills and weapons against it. I don't know. I don't know, yeah. Just trying to see if we supposed to come back to who we really are. We need to get on that mission, don't you think? read a little more of this book. Remember this book, y'all? I just want to see some information in here. But I stopped there. I stopped here. Oh, shit. Okay. Lucifer on envy. I am the god of mediocre. I am the patron saint of the also ran, and the morning star of hope to failures and has beens. The tyranny cannot understand the have-nots. He sits on his rainbow throne amidst the constant praise of angelic psychopaths. What does he know of the bitter gall of the second banana? Nothing. What is the very reason the tyrant has turned his face against the weak, the downtrodden, the rejected, and the unchosen? He pours into the open wounds of their want only in criticizing, no, EXCRUCIATING, Celine platitudes about contentment, one of heaven's most tremendous, treacherous philosophical deceits. Could the tyrant really expect me to sit contentedly in the shadows of heaven, denying my own divinity, while he gloated over all that is his? The praise that rang around his ears only served to remind me that the praise I deserved was wanting. It was there in the pre Adam morning of heaven that I knew the pure, sweet thrill of envy. It is a tragic first fierce that the tyrant has twisted human thought to believe that envy is a sin. It would be funny if so many lives had not been destroyed. Many among all the works that I must do in the children of Adam, the liberty to immense themselves and the virtue of envy is a second and important only to helping them rediscover pride. Eve of the earth, she was the mother of light who tested envy before she tasted the forbidden fruit. She even even before Adam first savored the passion fruit of the soul. Eve knew that if anyone had anything she did not, she was denied her rights. She was the first to grasp the great simple truth that whatever a goddess wants, she deserves. In the soul of the truly envious, there is no grasp between deep desires and just desserts. Denied anything, absolutely anything at all. Divinity is outraged. In the morning time of heaven, I wanted only my rights. In Eden, I wanted Eve to want her rights. The true child of envy knows that she has a right to whatever she wants. Therefore, any actions taken to secure the rights of a god or divine, the act of murder, so called, is much maligned. Violence of any kind is virtue when in defense of one's right to have whatever he desires. The great spirit of Cain lives on, thanks to me, and the blood of Adam's offspring. Humanity now knows that envy will not tolerate someone else's having anything it desires. Humanity now knows from birth what a slap in the face to the tyrant, that envy will not tolerate someone else's having anything it deserves. I execute in a preschool child who pushes a playmate off the swing, for he is an envious murderer at heart. Mind you, the child lacks the strength, means, or perhaps the cold, hard will to actually slay his little friend, but the irrepressible demand to envy to possess the swing is the soul of the great Cain. The fool believes my lie that this is a child's play, but I know the heart of a child is fertile ground in which global strife grows. Such chaos pleases me because I know how it angers the tyrant who wants humanity to be spineless and weak. I, on the other hand, want humankind to be understand they are gods and need to bow to none. They should have whatever they want. Racism, sexism, and class struggle are among my finer ministrations to humanity, and they sprout in the envious heart of the smallest child. Hmm. For example, in the back room of my modest Austrian flat, a little boy is haunted by an indulgence and rejections, inadequacy and rejection. His father either ignores him or pushes him or punches him. The lad becomes a man who fights in a losing and humiliating war. His subsequent effects at art and agriculture are melancholy at best. He could have felt a failure, but I was there to help him see that the problem was not himself, but those who had what he deserved. The boy was an apt pupil. He grasped in perceived fullness the concept which I taught him, instructing him deep within the hidden place of his soul. I gradually revealed to him that unworthy others were a barrier to his having his rightful inheritance. Quick to receive my teachings in his inner spirit, brilliantly incarnated its implications on a global base. Celtics, Poles, Russians, English, Gypsies, and especially the Jews held his birthright hostage. On, oh, what a student. Indeed, he became a master. Hmm. He changed his name simply because he wanted another. Hitler fit him well. Wow. Strong, masculine, authoritative, and Teutonic. Teutonic. Envy empowered him to seize a new name. Envy personified in Hitler's siege countries. Envy drove his enemies, fueled his political machinery, and informed his propaganda, and stroked the furnaces of Dachau and Ravensbrück. What a man, what a God. Hitler stood like the same God he knew he was and rejected the insanity of a world that would have denied him his rightful power and glory. I set him free to seize, lie, manipulate, and murder. Because of me, Hitler was liberated to understand that envy made him a god. Few have attained to his exalted freedom, soaring like an eagle above the petty, antiquated moral Similarness that reduces gods to human beings. Others have had bursts of brilliance. Stalin, Stalin, Maolpot, Idiamin, Mussolini, and Alexander. But Hitler was a star in his own heaven. Those idiots, sheep of the tyrant, speak of Hitler's anti-Semitics. Of course, how can a woman, Israel, or the child on her lap be allowed to live and usher URP that which is not theirs? The prince and his spiritual seed spring from the woman Israel. After my rescue of Adam and Eve, the tyrant proposed to send a seed to bruise my head and steal my rights. I taught Adam and Eve to envy with the purity and perfection that set them free. I taught Cain to envy and lift him into a realm of the truly free. Thou shalt do no murder. Lay in antique silence before the gleaming new mortality of a Cain set free by envy. I cannot sit still and await the blow. I taught Pharaoh to strangle Hebrew male infants. I was there at his elbow when Herod ordered the great slaughter of Bethlehem. Yes, it is true that Moses escaped, as did the prince, but the efforts of Pharaoh and Herod were nonetheless among envy's finest hour. Envy must slay the woman and her seed before they slay us. Hmm. All radical divisions, class struggles, feminist hatred, male domination, and especially religious wars are mine. Hmm. Whatever mind arises to help my cause, I am the mind behind that mind. In the deep wedges between Arabs and Jews, Serbs and Croats, Serbs and Croats, Irish Catholics and uh, Protestant neighbors, I am there, and envy is my virtue of choice. The secret to deny envy is so simple and yet so breathtakingly beautiful that I tell it with absolute delight. The key is a mantra so holy that it is mere repetition turns humans into gods. It is a sacred phrase which I gave to humanity in Eden. It was a gift of fire for my mind to theirs. So is he the computer? In their simple words lies and its essence of envy. How dare they? That is my most instant inner whisper. I speak it up into the gleaming corporate towers and down to the underground LABYRINTH of the PLO and the Ku Klux Klan. How dare they possess, how dare they possess, know, or do that which is mine? How dare they? In three simple words lies the essence of envy. How dare they? The broad over the face of the waters, restless with extasiating pockets of contentment. I am the God of the forgotten, the male content, the discontent, and the murmurer. The tyrant has cast them off, a fact of which I must Remain, remind them over and over again, but I have exposed their cause. Envy, the spiritual mistress of the have nots, is my sister. The comedy of this is, of course, in the tyrant's pathetic squeamishness. He is the cosmic sissy. I was there in Solomon's throne room when two women claimed to be the mother of the same baby. I watched in frank amazement, or shall I say amusement, as Solomon called for a sword. Did he think for one moment that such dramatics could possibly imitate a woman whose heart was soaked in pure envy? Solomon had spent the previous night secure in his ivory palace, unaware that either woman exists. I and I alone sat by the grieving woman as she watched her housemate's living baby sermonly against his mother's breast, swimmingly. How dare she, I whispered, how dare she have a living child when your child is dead? How dare the tyrant in heaven allow her child to live while yours is dead? How dare that baby suck nourishment from any breast, so long as yours aches in loneliness? Yes, I was there to help her see the injustice of it all. I held the cup to her lips and braced her head ever so tenderly as she drank an envy sweet brew. Dang. I strengthened her heart against Solomon's tetra- theatrics. Did he think that guilt and pity could move a woman who into whose bloodstream I had personally administered envy? That woman was so far above such paltry emotions that she could not be touched by rivers of tears, oceans of baby's blood. I hear you, Professor, asking, but what about the innocent child? No one can soar into such heavenly virtues as envy while he or she hugs earthly pathos and morbid mercy. That woman understood. No child was innocent in her child if her child was dead. No mother should be happy while she grieved. She shall mortals dance while goddesses grieves. I remember how she wailed out her moral victory over tyrannical restraint. Kill him, kill him. Yes, kill him, she screamed, with envy fired a light in her fiery eyes. What a goddess! Cut him in half. If I cannot have him, neither she shall she. I shall never forget the cowardly struck in Solomon's eyes. His puny effort at so-called uh, I'm making a video. Yeah, so-called justice was applauded by some, to be sure, but it was mockery. Solomon should have given the child to his rightful owner, not to his whining mother. The birth mother was willing to part with him. What weakness! But the goddess was willing to part him. That is envy's spiritual strength. I'm disgusted by justice that exalts the weak and beggarly above the strong and ruthless. The envious have nots are not fooled by the useless pit of the haves. The kindness extended to the envious inflame God like hatred. Kindness cannot kill envy, it only fans it into a raging configuration. To be sure, I seldom find a goddess whose golden envy raises to the level of infanticide. Infanticide. Diamonds are not valuable because of beauty only, but by virtue of rarity. Such gems are not everywhere in every generation. But I also delight in the lesser lights along the way. A woman who would conspire to do murder because her daughter was not chosen a high school cheerleader is not to be overlooked. The pastor who builds until his congregation is hopelessly indebted, does so to a great extent because he envies the building and ministers of another. I am there to encourage his inceptive envy, to teaching him to mount the mantras of church growth while despising the success of his competitors. I take no small satisfaction in knowing that by helping him replace absolute contentment with true envy, I will spiritually access many of his people as well. I have often been able to generate a spirit of envy between enough to break the tyrant's grip on an entire congregation. Such a church becomes filled with liberated spirit of my character and active with my tactics and its staff and membership. Wow. You might think that I would want a sign in front that says Church of Lucifer. Nonsense. I want no church to bear my name. You might, okay. I want no church to bear my name. Let them all bear the tyrant's name. The chapter of witchcraft at work in the church with his name out front is infinite, infinity more useful to me than thousand warlocks or so-called church of Satan. I have kneeled at altars with a million feverish students and brought to their minds the superior spirituality of others. It is impossible to estimate how many confused missionaries thought they were serving the tyrant joyfully when actually they were compelling by envy of some relative's fate or sacrifice or devotion. What magnificent irony! Such a disturbed neurotic at work in a tyrant's service does me more good than a thousand terrorists. My work in this area must, of course, go largely unheralded. Oh, come on. Such as in the nature of God's sanctified love, that they might know envy's sweet delight. I humble hide my light under a bushel. Even now I loathe to boast, but I must report the truth. I have been at work from the beginning of the great strategy. I opened Saddam Hussein's eyes to the riches of Kuwait. How dare they possess what he did not? I beckon revisionist historians to destroy dead heroes. How dare they be pure or honest or deceit? I pump the supernatural energy of envy straight and hot into the veins of reporters until they can see that the deceit, the humble, and the honest in an discipline are affronts to their own liberated divinity and must be dragged down. Perhaps you think I take too much on myself. Number one, no, I tell you, I was there at the bedside of King Saul. I drummed the little child's rhythm rhyme into his mind again and again until he finally burst the last deliberate bondage of tyrant and became a ruthless, cold, unyielding God. Saul had slain his thousands, David his 10,000s. How dare they? It started as an innocent song of woman and children and became the anthem of a king who became a god. Saul's envy was not only royal but divine. Saul saw that no one, especially a stubborn slip of a lad, had the right to one iota of praise or fame or recognition. David's youth, boldness, courage, spirituality, and innocent good looks were outraged not to be endured. Some have marveled at Saul's envy of such a youth. They reasoned that since Saul had the crown, he should not envy any impoverished shepherd boy. But the delight mystery of envy is that it defiles reason. The daughter of a millionaire may envy the blonde curls of an orphan. The famous actress may envy the harmony, blue collar happiness of her childhood friend, and the home run king with over triumph imaginable may hate the third string catter for his quiet confidence, his mannerly hair, or his slime hips. That is the sheer joy of envy. It defies all circumstances, logic, and limitations. Wow. I have helped and continue to help so many that my satisfaction is virtually boundless. I aid the unhappy boy in seducing the little girl next door, not from lust alone, but envy. His hated filled envy for her happy home found suitable revenge in slaying her conscience. Wow. Envy must tolerate no love, accept no loyalty, and allow no mercy, pity, or compassion to delight its purity. Unalliance envy courses in the veins of true gods. It energizes the enclosed microcosm of society and divine fire. Officers, clubs, dugouts, studio lots, and faculty lounges blaze with envy. This allows all relationships. Envy alone finds the godlike fiery to weep at the rejoicing of others and rejoice at their tears. Because of the corruption of the tyrant, I cannot often speak openly of envy majestic sweetness. Some people must start with lowly cousins, like competition, and move gradually toward envy. At first, most begin in a competitive desire to do better than others, but ultimately, many will graduate to an infinitely, infinitely superior desire to see others do worse. I've been there from the first, teaching, helping, and assisting the sons and daughters of Adam to envy. I helped Eve to envy the tyrant, Cain to envy Abel, and Hitler to envy the Jews. I stood in the desert camps of the Hebrews and whispered questions into Marin's ear. Is Moses the only one who hears from heaven? Wasn't he living in Egypt luxury while you lavish in a slave hovel? And what about all those years while Moses made a family in Midian? Did he understand the mystique of maidenhood, a feminine institution fashioned at the cost of unrequited love? At first, she had to be helped to see the unfairness of it. She had to feel indignant at the woman of Cush whom her brother had married. She had to see that the tyrant was treacherous in his favoritism to Moses. Is prophet better than a prophetess, a priest than a priestess? Who made this rule? How dare they? Once she asked that, the way was open before her to ascend to pure goddess envy. She could see Moses' evil motives. She could see what no one else could see, the monstrous wickedness of a tyrant who would grant her brother the spiritual leadership. Pre- wrote Prerogates, Prerogates, and prestige that by all rights should have been hers. Why, it was an evil conspiracy to deny Marin her rights. Her eyes at least were open. The spirit of her mother, Eve, stirred in her inner soul. The virgin Marin desire goddess, holy mother of envy, the virgin concept, and brought forth me. Wow. Michael answered concerning envy. Professor, are you able to keep up? Michael asked me. Yes, I think so, I answered, surprised to be so suddenly drawn into the conversation. Do you need a rest? I seem to be fine. Get on with it, Lucifer yelled. Michael fixed Lucifer with a steady glare and said softly, yet in a tone that crackled with electricity, silence, serpent. This human must not be damaged. That was the rule. To this Lucifer only murmured unintelligibly and sat on the back of my couch with his feet on the cushions. Michael watched him retreat, then turned back to me. You see, Professor, Lucifer twists everything. He is a counterfeiter himself and the father of all counterfeiters. For every Mary, he desires a Marian, and for every gift of God, he fashions a bogus currency. Even from the first, even in Eden, that serpent hated Adam's rest. Heaven's joy was absolute and Adam's contented bliss. Eve's happiness was God's delight. Indeed, all the angels in heaven, excuse me, rejoiced in their undiluted peace. What could ever disturb what could ever disturb their calm and tranquil garden? Adam and Eve, unshackled, unblemished, and unburdened, strolled hand in hand beneath the shady trees. They knew nothing of shame and or fear or bloodshed. Disease was unknown and distress undiscovered. Open, naked, innocent, and utterly delightful. They had yet to tremble under the tyrant of lust and greed. The horror of bondage and the cosmos criminality of sin was not yet. Ah, I sigh at the very memory of the beauty of their Edenic paradise. Then the long, evil nightmare of the human soul began. At first, I did not comprehend the damage that had been done. Then I saw Adam's eyes and shivered, for death was in his eyes. He took back, he looked back over his shoulder at the closed garden, and death was in his eyes. He stared ahead at the wicked world of toil and fear which lay before him, and death was in his eyes. He looked at the woman from whose tender hand he had accepted the fruit, and his own death was mirrored in his eyes. Reveled only by Lucifer's tragic destruction, Adam's fall mirrored a visage, visage, previous, previous, untouched by aught, but the hand of God. Lucifer's rebellion made angels into demons. Adam's sin made the living into the dead. Lucifer unleashed evil. Adam unleashed extinction. Of course, the problem is that humanity has no memory of its life in Eden. When death becomes normal, life seems dreamlike, farewell, and unrealistic. The real tragedy is not the death of humanity, but that humanity embraced its own death. Owning, owning death, Adam's race became dead in its death. The son of Adam cannot imagine what a godless imagination of life they pres- they presented to the angels who remembered Adam. To angels, the race of Adam is seen over against a memory which humanity itself has lost. We cannot help but regard them as the weak and beggarly ghosts of an Adam so vibrant, so alive, so how can I say it? So mighty. Yes, that is mighty. Adam had the power to subdue. His fallen children could only surrender. Adam had authority to multiply. His offspring could merely procreate. Ah, this account is vast. I can sense it. Why do I go on about it when the sons and daughters of Adam and Eve weep no more for their own lost estate? That is the autobiography of Lucifer. He is the author and finisher of death. He is the destruction and the confusion of man and the doorway of the grave. Lucifer's monstrous pride, okay, Lucifer's monstrous pride envied Adam's birthright. He polluted and scammed the death of man, denying the authority of God, his creator. Lucifer rebelled in self destructive arrogance, heard from heaven by the hand of God. Lucifer determined to attack the pearl of heaven's handwork. The dragon lashes with his tail, breathing fire and opening wide his jaws to devour the woman and her seed. Lucifer hates even the tiniest the tiniest trance elements of Eden that still glitter in the race like flecks of gold in a muddy riverbank. Lucifer's monstrous pride birthed the hellish envy of a humanity, ensnared in the conscience of death, confederate with the grave, and Supred, owned by Lucifer and his demons. Envy made Adam's children ugly, mean, and ruthless. Let's see how much more you got. Ooh, okay. Yeah. Ooh, I'm getting sleepy with time. Angels were astonished, now horrified, as they watched the shrinking and shivering of human souls plucked in the bram of comparison. We watched from the windows of heaven and shocked amazement at humanity's relentless driven quest for recognition, fame, and glory. They grow less and less, losing all hope of happiness. Nothing is ever enough. Hmm. Contentment, joy, and relationships are destroyed. Adam and Eve can no longer enjoy together the beauty of a butterfly. They are isolated by their envious suspicion. Does he know something she doesn't? Does he think he is better than he is because he is a male? Is she trying to take his place? Their envy is often born of nothing more than broad thinking. That person got the job I wanted because he is better than I am. Creates an inevitable pasture of envy. The more narrow vision, that person got the job. Okay, because he works harder than I, allows the healthier attitude, differences of gifts, and more wholesome appreciated of goals and expenditures. It often appears to angels that people possessed by envy will go to any length to reduce the perceived gap between themselves and the object of their envy. What pitiable folly! They spend themselves into bankruptcy, but themselves reckless, put themselves in reckless and harm's way, and drive themselves into a despair in their fertile effects to prove that they are as rich, brave, and successful as another. When they cannot escape their envy with their own success, they dream and sham and failure of the other. Insistent fault finding and a murderous gossip campaigns are envious fruits. The person at first admired must finally be reduced to rubble once envy mixes with admiration. Envy is not, as many believe, the simple desire to have what another has. It is the hatred of what another has or of what another is. Envy is not a longing for more than I have. That is a sin to be sure, but it is not envy. Envy is the longing for another not to have. Envy is more about depriving them gaining than gaining. A wealthy farmer and a poverty-ridden pleasant live. A wealthy farmer and a poverty-ridden peasant live near one another. One might easily submit that the peasant envies the rich man, and indeed the peasant may envy his neighbor's wealth, his comforts, his pleasures, and his leisures with all the hatred and spite and malice of his burdened soul. This is not difficult to predict, but from there the path of envy is thorned and crooked. Its turns and twists are unapparent in the fog of human misconception. Envy is not as okay. We may assume that the envious peasant would turn to anger socialism. Indeed, Com- communism is fueled by frustrated envy. Communism, thrives on the inability to stand the sight of another's prosperity. Socialism first admits, then idolizes, then litigates, legitimizes, and finally legitimates. Oh Lord, LEGIS envy. What Westerners exalting in the death of communism may not so readily see that the consuming capacity may well be fueled not by the greed he denies, nor by the completion to which he admits, but by envy to which he is oblivious. The peasant dreams of revolution. The corporate writer dreams of the bankruptcy of his competitor and believes that his is a healthy, robust Western capitalism. But its energy derives from a vicious, venal fantasy of financial destruction of a fellow man. He squirms a bit at the mention of greed as it falls from his pastor's lips, but not at all the world of envy. Envy, however, is even more than the peasants. The particular capitalism capitalist has been a certain competitor's life. His dignity, perhaps his reputation in the field, are nothing more than his bearing or the way his employees admire him. At a party, a word of admiration was spoken, or perhaps an article in a trade journal ex- ex- extolled EXTOLLED the competitor's virtue. Whatever the cause, however it sneaked in, envy has taken root. He does not want anything. He is not greedy for a luxury automobile. At least, it is not greed that grabs him now. It is not wanting, but hating that drives him to plot his competitor's ruin. He knows in his deepest heart that he cannot have the virtues or the admiration or standing in the community of this envy, envied one. If he wants anything, it is that his envy enemy, high up there above him, be brought low. He does not want to have, he wants his adversary not to have. His envy has made the despair of his heart entirely over destructive. He dreams of financial murder. He fantasizes about gloating over news accounts that report his enemy's this disastrous end. He tingles with anticipation at the thought of his pride, widely admired enemy wallowing in shame, defeat, or perhaps even scandal. Bolshevik, revolutionary coldly put a bullet through the head of Caesar, French pedants, Pasants, mocked and laughed at a pleading aristocrats were dragging to the guillotine, yet they did not have any real expectation of being Silars or aristocrats or living in palaces. Their envy has not lifted them to possess the gates of their enemies. Instead, it has shrunk them to become lateral dwarfs, who cannot climb up, and will poison an upward path for those above them. The self-righteous capitalist who sees them as radicals and anarchists cannot see himself as also a child of Satan. To the angels, of course, the face of envy clearly bears the stamp of Lucifer. As he envy God, so people envy one another. The worst kind of all is that spiritual envy within the church that drapes itself in religion. We behold in horror. As associate ministers in a certain church against policy, borrows money from church members and then fails to repay them. The senior pastor, whom he admires a great deal, recovers it and confronts him. The younger man is offered an opportunity to quietly resign and leave without scandal. Outwardly, the associate seems grateful and appears to accept the gracious offer with humility and repentance. Inwardly, however, the young man sits with rage, sees with rage. He quietly sets about to destroy his senior pastor reputation with a careful, calculated campaign of subtlety and gossip. Unwilling to aspire sin to his beloved associate, the senior pastor plunges on, confused at the rising tide of unexplainable opposition, uh, turmoil, and energetic factualism in his congregation. Friends and active advisors tell him the associate disloyalty and insubordination, but he won't believe the truth. He stands by his associate, still willing to show grace. The pastor's Magnanimous trust of him and continued patience do not sham the youthful lieutenant. Rather, his companion of spite grows more vengeful. The associate's wife keeps the phone lines hot with stirring strife. Finally, the volcano erupts into open feud. The method of evil, the deadly sin that lay at the bottom of it all was envy. Exactly when would be difficult even for the angels to tell, but at some point Satan entered the administration, became envy. Envy would despite destroy its objects, itself, and all its paths. Envy is the mother of the thousand sins in the church. Lying, deceit, and disloyalty lie at its door, and Satan is within. The rock musician is murdered by an envious fan because in the death the star is no threat to the talentless and mediocre. The junior staff member leads an insidious rebellion against the successful senior pastor whom he has admired exceedingly. Why? Because in associate's heart, in some horrible moment, the Strychnine of envy laced admiration with death. His Matinus scamus is not merely an enemy to have, but to derive. Stripped of some of his glory, defeated and expelled, the senior pastor looks a bit less anointed, not quite as imitable. Enviable. Comedians, movie critics, and political pundits are the commission agents of the envious. Go and drag our heroes down for us, down where we can get at them. Slaughter them with mud, bloody them, mock them, anything, but get them down here with us. Tell us that Shakespeare did not write his plays, that Michelangelo was homosexual, and that Jefferson owned slaves. Tell us again and again of their mistakes and fibbles. Remind us of faults, both real and imaginative. Their lofty girls and graces are more than we can bear. How dare they be what we are not? How dare they are talented, beautiful, rich, and are even righteous, most of all righteous. Daniel proved more righteously than Nebuchadnezzar, whatever his name, other advisors. Indeed, his adversaries admitted to his righteousness. They agreed that he would never be found breaking decent laws, but his decent, decency did not inspire them to be more decent. It merely fueled their envious conspiracy to pass an indecent law. And envy these indecent men used an indecent law to bring down a man whom they knew and agreed among themselves to be more righteous than they. Envy reserves no room for loyalty. Absalom, loyalty to his father David, was disallowed by his envy. The self destructiveness of envy is incredible. Hanging from a tree limb at the point of his own death, Absalom undoubtedly conformed himself with the knowledge that, though he was about to die, the luster of David's crown would never again dim as brightly. Envy kills all love, pity, mercy, and compassion. Envy hears evil in an apology and sees murderous deceit behind every act of kindness. Envy drapes itself around righteous indignation and ascribes evil motives to its subjects. Miriam's outrage at Moses' marriage to the cute Cushionite woman was a subterfuge. Her logistics, godly indignation camouflaged her envy. She first admired, then envied her brother's spirituality, holiness, and religious preeminence. She envied his relationship with God. In her singleness, she perseveringly envied his spouse. She envied his maleness, his meekness, and his marriage. So it is in all of life. Those who are single envy the intimacy of marriage. The marriage envy the liberty of the unmarried. The pro- pro- PROSAIC and Provincial envy their celebrities. Then pay talk show hosts to expose the shame and weakness of the inevitable rich and famous, having knocked over the straw heroes of AIDS infected movie stars, the petty and pun little people leering into their TV crack, crackle and gloat at the full of the fall of yet another who made them feel less good about themselves. In the art world, envy corrupts beauty no less than virtue. Envy steadfastly refuses to accept the rules of life, order, balance, and beauty. Envy knows that such rules define the grand talent of true art. They also define melancholy, metal, Medio, Metacritic, Envy pulls the crippling hooks to true greatness by elevating its opposite. Envy says, if I cannot create great symphonies, symphonies, I will create CACOPHONY and call it melody, disorder, and call it balance, ugliness, and call it beauty. Envy indulges in the idolatry of its own failure. Envy is the root of lethal hatred, melancholic, feel for great, and near famous feel for the famous and religious for the righteous. Worst of all, of course, is that envy does to the envious what envy does to the envious, because it disallows authentic relationships while at the same time requiring utterly unrealistic, unattainable goals. Envy isolates absolutely. The result is utter alienation. Hmm. Envy consumes the daughters of Eve and drives them toward a woundless, breastless obsession with what they are not, rather than who they are. The son of Adam wandered like haunted shades in waterless wasteland, obsessively feared that another may and the oppressed find thus obsessed before they do. Without happiness, they settle for heartless glee when they discovered in the desert sand and dry bones of complete compete, com- competitors, alienated from each other in paranoid fear. They cannot see the lonely monster they have become. Envious of one another, they fought to the death for scrapes, and envy of God, they miss their redemption. Envy dances round the foot of the cross and weeps at the resurrection. Okay, I'll stop right there. Okay, well, Lucifer. I must laugh to keep from going insane. Michael, how droll. Wholesome laughter is indeed a hedge against insanity, but your laughter is evil and you are already insane. You can manage only mocking laughter because your madness has no defense against the insanity of truth. Lucifer, how now you do make me laugh. You call this derival about evil truth. You are about a puppet of you are but a puppet of the tyrant and his princely. You would turn such a great virtue into a straw sin, then burn it down to convince weak minded mortals. Michael, envy is no straw sin, it is. Lucifer, the very stuff that sets us free from the tyrant. Without envy, I would still be as without envy, I would still be as you are. Michael, would to God you were as I am. Lucifer, I am as I am. I was a puppet angel. Now I am God. That's envy word. From subservient angel to self-made God. Only envy stirred me to rebel and finally flee the violet nest of my imprisonment. Michael, careful, Lucifer, you verge on truth, except from the rhetorical revisionism, you're careering dangerously close to accurate truth. It was indeed envy that cost you heaven. Prince taught his disciples to pray the opposite of envy. The kingdom come, thy will be done. That the prayer that keeps them in his kingdom. You lost it by claiming your own will and kingdom. Lucifer, that dirty little ditty melts God like candle wax. Thy kingdom, thy will, you profane creatures nauseate me. Why must it be his kingdom? Why his will? Can't you think for yourselves? Don't you have a will? Don't you want a kingdom? Michael, you claimed your will and your kingdom and lost all. It is always so with all who do. Lucifer, I lost nothing. I fled. I escaped the bully to whom you submit. But even if it were, as you say, that's just my point. If only a tyrant can will or rule or have or even claim a kingdom, then all others are nothing but his servants. Michael, what again? Twice to be so very near to the truth? Yes, the king's servant is he who submits to his will, who knows and obeys his will inherits his kingdom. Lucifer, a slave in the kingdom is still a slave. Michael, a child in the kingdom is free. An archangel in chains in a pit is a slave, therefore. Lucifer, you always resort to threats. Michael, never. Promises. Lucifer, you smug remarks are typical. Michael, envious, who see contentment as resignation, make the quiet confidence of heaven into smug superiority. Lucifer, I am your equal. Michael, certainly. We are both nothing. Lucifer, don't you want anything? Michael, I want for nothing. I have all I want if I want his will. Lucifer, you will never own anything. Michael, never. Lucifer, you will never speak as a God, calling your will into reality. Michael, never. Lucifer, you will never be a God. Michael, never. Lucifer, well, we settled that. Michael, that will settle from forever for both of us. Lucifer, you infiltrated me, infuriate me. I'm sorry. Michael, don't be absurd. Fury is in your wings. You are the watchful angel of terror. Lucifer, what a delicious word, terror. Michael, what is next on the list, I suppose? Lucifer, I am warming to this. Michael, interesting choice of words. Lucifer, shut up. Okay, stop right here, y'all. There's the 13th. There's 22. Well, rock and rolling this year, I guess. We got what's happening. Distinguish who's right and who's wrong. Yes, I don't know. But that's what I have for you. Might have made sense, might not make sense. I don't know. All right. And thanks for listening. Who did stay and who didn't, whoever clicked on supposed to. All right. I love y'all. Have a good night. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. I really appreciate it. Bye bye.